Joerg Rieger's Theology in the Capitalocene argues that the main cause of our current ecological crisis is not just human arrogance or a bad attitude toward nature, it is the economic system of neoliberal capitalism. Rieger calls our current geological era the Capitalocene, meaning the age of capital, to highlight that the drive for endless profit and expansion is destroying the planet and exploiting most people. The solution is not individual lifestyle changes or simply greening capitalism. Instead, we need deep systemic change. This requires building deep solidarity among the working majority, the 99% of people who have to work for a living across all races, genders, and nationalities, and with the non human world itself. The book argues that class, race, gender, and ecology are not separate issues. They are all part of the same system of exploitation. Therefore, theology must stop focusing on abstract ideas about God and start engaging with the real struggles of working people and the earth. Rieger calls for a new kind of theology that takes sides with the exploited, rethinks God's presence in material life, and builds movements for economic and ecological justice. The first chapter, The Peculiar Agency of People and the Planet, lays the foundation by showing that climate change is not a mystery. The vast majority of scientists agree it is real and caused by humans. But the author argues that the real driver is not humanity in general, but the specific system of neoliberal capitalism. For example, 71% of carbon emissions come from just 100 fossil fuel companies. The myth of the carbon footprint was invented by BP to blame individuals. The real problem is the system's need for endless growth, which exploits both human labor and the natural environment as cheap resources. The chapter contrasts two sociological theories. Ecological modernization suggests that technology and better management can make capitalism green. Rieger finds this naive. The treadmill of production theory argues that capitalism's very logic requires constant growth, which always increases environmental destruction. Therefore, small fixes are not enough. Real change requires a different economic order. The author emphasizes that solutions must focus on production, how we make things, and under what power relations, not just consumption or what we buy. The most powerful agents of change are working people and the emerging worker cooperative movement, which builds alternative economic power from the bottom up. Chapter 2, The Immanence and Transcendence of Christianity and Capitalism, tackles a common claim that Christianity is anti ecological because it focuses on a transcendent God and ignores the immanent material reality. Rieger argues that this is not the full picture. The problem is not transcendence itself. After all, capitalism is very this worldly, materialist system focused on profit and physical wealth. However, it is destroying the planet. So, focusing only on the material world does not automatically lead to ecological health. What we need is a new understanding that brings together both immanence and transcendence. True transcendence is not escaping the world, it is the alternative way of being in the world that challenges the dominant capitalist system. Rieger points to the labor of working people and the agency of nature itself, like how forests communicate underground as sources of this alternative power. God is found not in abstract ideas, but in the material struggles for life and liberation. Theology must study the labor of religion, how beliefs are produced in the context of economic power. The ultimate goal is economic democracy, where workers and communities, not just shareholders, control production and share the wealth. Chapter 3, Class and its Discontents, argues that class is the most underappreciated concept in theology today. Most people think of class as a social strata, upper, middle, and lower, based on income or education. But Rieger argues for a relational understanding of class. Class is about power, who controls the workplace, who makes decisions, and who benefits from the surplus produced by others as labor. The working class is not just factory workers, it is the 99% of people who must work for a living and have little control over their work. The executive class, the 1%, controls the economy. Class relationships are also where other identities like race and gender are shaped and exploited. The system uses racism and sexism to divide and conquer the working majority. Therefore, studying class is essential for understanding all forms of oppression. Rieger connects this to theology by arguing that labor and work are a matter of ultimate concern. Our existence depends on reproductive and productive labor. Ignoring class is not neutral, it supports the status quo. A truly liberating theology must analyze and take the side of the working majority. Chapter 4, The Impossibility of Deep Solidarity, is the most constructive chapter in the book. It asks, how can the progressive left overcome its divisions and build real power? Rieger critiques both centrism and identity politics that only seek inclusion into the existing system. He argues for deep solidarity, which is not based on sameness or moral guilt tripping. It is based on the shared material experience of exploitation. He makes a key distinction between privilege, that is, unearned advantages like white privilege, and power, the ability to control the system. Many middle class people have privilege but very little real power. Confusing the two leads to ineffective activism. Deep solidarity starts from the bottom with those who suffer most from the system. For example, black women and essential workers. It embraces difference and uses it as a strength, not a problem. It requires a shift from a politics of recognition, asking to be included, to a politics of redistribution and transformation, changing the system itself. The author returns to the labor movement's motto: an injury to one is an injury to all. This is the material basis for solidarity across race and gender lines. For theology, this means God is found in these struggles, and true repentance is not just feeling guilty individually, but actively siding with the oppressed against the ruling class. The conclusion applies the book's arguments to the urgent issue of reparations for African Americans for the legacy of slavery. Rieger argues that reparations cannot be just about writing a check. They must address the ongoing distortion of labor relations. Slavery was the most extreme form of wage theft and exploitation. Therefore, reparations must aim to restore agency to those whose labor was stolen. This means fundamentally changing the exploitative nature of work itself, moving toward worker cooperatives and economic democracy. Such reparations would benefit not only black Americans but all working people, including poor whites, because the system of exploitation hurts everyone but the 1%. This is the logical conclusion of deep solidarity. No one is free until all are free. A theology of Capitalocene must therefore be a theology of material liberation rooted in the struggles of working people and the earth.